Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Innovator Coffee, a podcast that bridges the gap between the people and the world of AI and innovation. Follow us to explore the top AI applications, ecosystem insights, and the emerging trends. Today, we are very honored to have Lu Zhang, founding partner of Fusion Fund, with us. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you, Vicky and Tom. Good to see you again.
Yeah, so first of all, glad to see you come back to our podcast, our show. Thank you for the supporting. And maybe we'll start our first questions. Um, since like for 2025, it's like a booming year for AI for sure. Would like to know how do you look at 2025 and what's your prediction on 2026?
Yeah, you're so right about 2025 is a major year for the technology trend, especially powered by AI, AI native innovation, and AI powered industry opportunity. It's also a very eventful year. Especially we are based in Silicon Valley, it's the heart of the innovation. Since they're evolving every single day. It's not like about every month or every quarter. There are new launches every week. This is very fascinating for both a large enterprise ecosystem and also smaller startup ecosystem. And we've been active deploying capital in 2025, invested 10 new company. We also saw 5 merger acquisition exiting fund across the fund in 2025 with 3 upcoming IPO. So you can, from all this metric, you can see the momentum, the strong momentum. And in terms of the trend, I think AI is, of course, it's the top topic. But compare 25 with 24 and also upcoming 2026, I think there's some new consensus across the industry. Number one is people are more practical. Instead of only looking at the benchmark data of the new AI model launched, people are more practical, talking about the specific use cases of different AI application, talk about how to make AI not only better, but also cheaper, how to reduce the GPU consumption, energy consumption, how to enable the local deployment across different industry. That's the reason related to another consensus is instead of only focus on large language model, there are lots of discussion about small language model. Because if you're looking at enterprise use cases, want to deploy on a private network with edge application, small language model is kind of the go-to target. Another thing is, especially during 25, 26, before Davos, I was at a JPMorgan Healthcare Conference. You probably know I do enterprise AI, healthcare AI, industry automation. So we have long track record looking at innovation across healthcare sector powered by AI. During JPMorgan Healthcare Conference, we also heard from all the industry leaders, the pharmaceutical company, healthcare life science company. They're under strong sense of urgency to integrate with AI solution. They're very open to work with a smaller startup. There's a major announcement between Eli Lilly and NVIDIA during JPMorgan Healthcare Conference about their collaboration on healthcare AI. So we also host our founder happy hour with only 200 people capacity. We got over 1,000 RSVP for our events. And also in our expert dinner, we have leaders, head of AI innovation from most of the major, life science and the pharma company mingle with our founder, talk about collaboration opportunity. So I think that's another consensus of industry now is not waiting. 2024, they're talking about whether we should deeply integrate with AI. It's not if anymore. 2025 is, yes, for sure we need to do is how much, how fast. And in 2026, I think is built on top of that. It's really about how big is the scope and also how much budget we should allocate. That's also is a similar consensus and also the feedback I heard from the industry leader from Davos. I was at Davos. As you guys know, last week was very eventful. Davos, I become a young global leader with Davos was a young World Economic Forum since 2018. So this is my third time go to Davos, but this one is probably the best one in terms of the intensity and the quality of the conversation. And also, again, for us as early stage investor, we have such a strong portfolio track record of backing AI company. All this industry leader, the large corporate CEO I met with, they're asking the similar questions, how we can work with a small startup, how we can build up and upgrade our infrastructure to make it ready for the data strategy. And also the budget they're talking about is now a couple $100 million, it's $1 billion budget, which is very, very impressive as well. So that's kind of another interesting industry trend we're seeing. And people ask me the upcoming trend in 25, in 26. I think in terms of a vertical application, as I mentioned, the industry was huge amount of high quality data. So healthcare AI for sure, vertical AI for healthcare sector. big market, 20% US GDP. So many different use cases. We have company doing federal computing, which also essentially provide a solution for data compliance issue and privacy issue for highly regulated industry have like healthcare sector. So that's kind of foundation work being done in the past 1 year. And another is like insurance industry, financial industry, logistic industry. That's all the interesting opportunity happening right now. Another really I like to highlight is the space sector. As you guys know, I've been investing in space tech and space industry for many years, since 2017. The space ecosystem is building up. It's not only just a rocket launching satellite. Based on satellite data, there are so many AI applications can be built up. Every single satellite become edge devices, which can power the future of AI on the edge. Not to mention the reduction of the launching cost will give us the full ecosystem of a space infrastructure. I remember last time I had a conversation with Tom was about physical AI, and the space industry is naturally robotics native. So we have company doing autonomous robotic system for space sector, space infrastructure that getting $20 million contract revenue already. So this is another fast evolving sector, especially in United States. And beyond that, of course, I think AI infrastructure continue to evolve. The questions remain the same, how to make AI cheaper and also more diverse instead of only consolidating into like only GPU, only certain infra. Now we have more diverse option to build up AI infra layer to reduce the training cost, reasoning cost, inference cost, and also deployment cost.
Yeah, since you mentioned
Yeah.
Davos, you just came from Davos. Could you share a little bit more about the Davos insights for AI for world economy? We know that
Mm,
Davos share like AI developing very differently from United States compared to Europe, even Latin America. Talking about the
yeah.
energy, others, and could you share more about this?
I have to say that, especially, we're very lucky we're based here. And when I had conversation with others, world leader across the different continent, you can tell that US is far in advance in terms of other continent, other country, AI adoption, AI technology evolution. But on the other side, European market is opening up. You can tell they used to be very heavy on the discussion of the regulation, especially European market. Now they're lifting up the regulation discussion, try to provide more, I would say, flexible ecosystem for AI technology to evolve. Another thing is they're also thinking about how they position themselves in this very sensitive geopolitical environment. One small surprise I heard is, when we talk about the sensitivity of a geopolitical issue, it's always in the context of US-China, US-Russia, it's never about US and Europe. But regarding what happened recently with Trump administration, I think there's a increasing tension regarding the US-Europe geopolitical issue. And some of the leader from Europe was asking me, they said their board is worried about where to host their sensitive data. Do they should they only work with US company or they should they try to, I'll prefer to work with local founder while we know in Europe they don't have an ecosystem like Silicon Valley that's so mature with AI innovation, but they start to worry about it, which is a small surprise to me because in Silicon Valley you also know that there are so many immigrant founders here. There are tons of AI founder, European founder. We have lots of European founder in our portfolio, and we always think about US first, Europe second. And all this track record validation here can be translated to the Europe and easily deployment there. But if European markets start to worry about the security of the data hosting, the infrastructure building, they want to have a more kind of a local deployed structure to make sure they have more flexibility. That might be a challenge, but also potential opportunity. I have a European founder in my office right now, from UK. I was talking to him. I'm like, now you probably have the benefit of having the team both in US and also in Europe. Then you can have a parallel entity in Europe to serve the European customer, which can potentially solve the problem and provide special opportunity for you. So that's something relatively new to me. I didn't realize that in US, for example, when Trump said we're going to take over Greenland, we know he will not. It's a technique of a negotiation. But in Europe, they really worry about it. They worry
Yeah,
about invasion. They worry about the consequences of the political agenda. Yeah, so that's something very interesting. But on the other side, as I mentioned earlier, most of my conversation with industry leader, global leader are very, very encouraging in terms of the technology trend. And not only a sense of urgency, I think the anxiety level is really high, very, very high. So they are worried about not making changes. They're worried about left behind. They're worried about evolution of technology so fast they didn't realize what's happening, and they have to continue make sure they're catching up. Another thing is also access to talent and the data. That's always the consistent topic, and they wanted to make sure they have the right structure and the people in place. I think no matter what is happening across the world or happening in Davos will make Silicon Valley an even more powerful place for the as an innovation engine for the whole world. But on the other side, we should always be very sensitive and alert about what's happening in DC, all this geopolitical discussion, and make sure our founder, yes, they will cause some new challenge, but we all see that there's opportunity always come along with a crisis. So how to capture the opportunity as well. There are also lots of discussion about, I got a couple interview panel discussion. People always ask me, oh, do you think we have the one of the best technology trend with the worst political environment? I'm like, yes, that's true. But you also need to realize if it's not for the terrible political environment, we won't have such a strong sense of urgency, anxiety, and also fear of missing out. Then people will continue have the lazy mind. Even they know using new technology solution will make their work better, they will refuse to change. Now, because of the external pressure, they're so willing to change. They're eager to make changes, which is a beneficial opportunity for a technology trend. So this is ironic situation. So I think we just need to focus on what we're doing day to day, make sure we back and support the best founder, and also founder have the correct global perspective to make sure innovation not only benefiting for certain region, but benefiting the whole world.
Yeah, I think there are a few things that I really agree with you from your previous conversation, right? First of all, I'm in the healthcare industry. I saw there's a strong trend, like people try to get into AI healthcare sector, and you can see the strong signal is from the OpenAI actually. In the middle of last year, they decide not to do the healthcare part in their model, right? And then by the end of the year, they start to repick up this area, which make me feel very interesting. And I can also say there are a lot of companies currently grow very fast. They're
Yeah.
trying to the seed company I see for like a year ago, they start to try to do the A round
Mm,
raising, and their tracking record is pretty good, I see.
yeah.
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 And
That's
then yeah.
that's another thing we also noticed last year. I think this year will continue. Many of our portfolio company, the revenue can grow from zero to like a couple, $3-5 million within couple months, and some of company grow from zero to $100 million revenue within a year or two. If you look at the size of the team, it's only 20, 30 people, which is quite exciting. You
Yeah.
know, more efficient of the capital resources. But on the other side, that's another topic we discuss a lot on the Davos. It's really the social challenge and the changes in the face of AI. Because used to be a company generating $100 million revenue will generate probably 100 jobs. Now it's only 20, 30 jobs. So there are not only concentration risk of the capital in the public and private market. Of course, there are also bubble issue with capital market. There are also concentration challenge and also risk for this AI innovation. Will be much smaller portion of the population will benefit from the hyper growth of the AI innovation, and the social structure gonna face lots of challenge in the near future as well. It's not only just within the one country. In US, we already see the challenge, right? Large company are doing tons of layoff while their efficiency is getting higher. But for the people who didn't got the chance to continue work, what should they do? And another thing for the rest of the world, for example, the IT industry in India, the call center industry from Southeast Asia, what's gonna happen to them? So that's another kind of interesting discussion we have in Davos. Long term, every technology innovation eventually will generate more opportunity for sure. But the short term pain might be too painful this time, and also may happen too fast. The society, the leader need to make sure they're ready to be prepared for that. There will be more uncertainty and the volatility of the social status. Another thing, even for all the leader, that's one thing I kind of talk about in one panel. That's a panel talk about the leadership of the younger generation. Like for your generation, it's a must to have, not only knows AI, but also knows how to manage both AI talent and also human labor. So it's gonna be a mix of a digital labor and a human labor. How to structure the company based on different type of the labor profile you have, and which position will be AI enabled human position or human in the loop powered AI functionality. That's all the new challenge, our management, the leadership skill you have to be able to capture for the future of leader. Same thing for us. We're just in this transition period right now.
Yeah. And I also see actually there do have some challenge on the like how AI healthcare company leverage the healthcare data, right? There are some compliance concerns and there are a lot of regulations. But you just mentioned in Davos they have some um lift up on the legal side
No,
or
I,
and
I, I won't say. I said that it's more about the regulation in general because Europe was famous for a very harsh, regulation in general. But I think now they're more open in terms of loose up the regulation. Doesn't mean like no regulation. Still, you need regulation. And data privacy is a slightly different topic. There's compliance risk. There's also data privacy challenge. It's less on the regulation side. It's more on the industry side. So that's the part we also need technology to provide a solution. We have company doing AI governance, the federal computing. That's all one type of solution to help industry deal with the data privacy issue.
cool. Tom,
Yeah, we all know that you are great supporter for the open source.
Yes.
Right now, the hottest the project in Silicon Valley is Cloudbow. It
Yeah.
has another name, yeah. So how do you perceive the open source in the 2026? You also give comments on the manuals acquired by Meta earlier this year, right? So how do you perceive the open source industry, yeah, in the US?
Yeah. As you mentioned, we've
Thanks.
been a great supporter to open source community for many years, and I personally very bullish about future of open source. Now we also can see the beauty of the open source, especially the benefit of a startup ecosystem using the open source resources, build project on top of that. The couple really hot company recently are all spin off from the open source project. And even now, more and more investor, when they look at the company, they're looking at, okay, what is the star number of the GitHub, and in order to add in as one of the criteria for them to evaluate the company and the project. And also on the other side for the it's a CloudPod, right? The new one you just
Ah,
mentioned.
yes, yes.
Yes, yeah. So I saw it last week. I told my team we have a Mac Mini in our conference room. Like let's run it on Mac Mini as well. That's kind of the really good validation of the AI agent, the functionality, AI on the edge. I think the 2026 is going to be an amazing year for open source. And we'll see more kind of a contributor to the open source community, not only from US, but also from China. You can see China is very strong on open source present in the past 1 years. I think they will continue launch. In Davos, I think the chairwoman of the president of Kimi, Yu Tong, also mentioned that they will launch a new model very soon, most likely going to be open source. Also, LeQuan, the LeQuan after he left Meta, he started his new company, and he also promised they will be fully open source, open weight as well. I think we'll see more contributor into open source community, and more importantly, I think compared with 2024 there will be less discussion about large language model, but more discussion about the world model and also new model architecture. But how to facilitate the new model architecture innovation, we need a more diverse innovation ecosystem. Large company, once they kind of build on top of large language model, it's hard for them to prioritize the resources, capital, talent for new model architecture. Of course, Google still continue investing into the new model architecture, but they already have a production ready large language model based solution ready to go. So for them to rely on them for new model architecture, I don't think that's the most efficient way. But we can really look forward to the new model architecture from the open source community. We have several companies doing that, including some company doing operation system for agent, new model architecture. They're also strong contributor to the open source in general. So that's the reason I'm very bullish about it. Now people realize maybe LLM is not the ultimate pathway to the AGI. We need a new architecture and where to find a new architecture. In terms of large player, you mentioned about Meta. I was very impressed by Llama 3, but Llama 4 was very disappointed. And we also discussed in the past is because after Llama 3, internally they wanted to more focus on productization of a large language model instead of continue investing to the reasoning. Now, Meta make a lot of investment in the past 1 year. So we'll see what launch they can produce in the next couple months. I don't think they will continue investing to the open source. But me personally really like LeQuen's future prediction of the path to the AGI and also the new model architecture. That's the reason I will keep a close eye on his new company. And because he promised it will be open source, I think it will be very beneficial for the ecosystem as well.
Regarding the architecture and operating system for agent, we noticed that you released a report recently for agent
Yes.
particles. So can you elaborate more why you do this report and what's the industry behind that?
Yes. We did a new report on AI agent protocol, and that was launched, I think, late last year by December. It was very popular. It's really because, as you mentioned, there's so much discussion about AI agent. Number one, people don't have a really clear definition what is agent, and also different use cases of agent. There's so many protocol out there, and which protocol is more practical for which use cases, and also what infrastructure need to be ready for agent really show the full capability. That's all the thing we discussed in the report. By the way, we have the report listed in our published on our website. So feel free to check it out for everyone watching this podcast. It's under the Industry Insights and Industry Research Report. That's our latest report. I think I'm very bullish about future for the agent, but I also feel like now we're probably a little bit too optimistic about the deployment timeline of the agent and how to really make sure agent can cross-function and also sit on top of existing, industry infrastructure is also a question mark. In Davos, actually, I was talking with the CEO of a major bank. They are building some AI agent internally. He's like, Lu, I don't know how to build this governance layer of the agent. For example, as a human, if you ask each other questions, you have the judgment call right away about what is the sensitive information. If I, for example, I ask like, Vicky, how much money you're making every year, right? You will know that I should not answer these questions. But for agent to agent communication, there's so many cadence that you have to put in the rules for agent to understand what information to provide to another agent and when and how to make sure that governance framework is ready before you deploy multiple agents across different division. So when he bring up this use case, he said, Lu, do you have any company doing this? I'm like, we have company doing AI governance, not specific for agent, but it's a very practical use cases. So this basic challenge hasn't been resolved yet. We're still only focused on the functionality of the agent itself. So I think we need to be very practical about the timeline of the deployment, understand which protocol will be more practical and also low cost with the local deployment, and move from there.
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting topic currently. Because I'm in the security side, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of like talk to different people, try to understand the kind of like the issue you mentioned, and try to see how each people try to resolve it. Yeah, once I have like outcome, maybe I will share with you as well.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I think, the good thing is, it's also go back to your early questions about what we should look forward to 2026. I think this interaction between the startup ecosystem with large enterprise and a big user will be more frequent, which means we can get a very practical feedback from them. What do they need to really utilize AI agent, AI deployment? Then the innovation can be more efficient. But looking back on some of the startup company back in 2024, I feel there's still a clear gap of what it provided, what industry really need. But the situation will be much better this year. So I really looking forward to 2026. I also be ready for even getting much less sleep this year. Last year was like crazy. I was only catching up on sleep during the holiday in December, didn't do any trip. And for this year, I think, my January already been quite crazy. Think about the CES, JPMorgan Chase, Davos. I just fly back yesterday, landed yesterday morning, directly come to office right after landing at SFO. Yeah, so many things coming up. So it's gonna be good problem to have. Very exciting year.
Yeah. 2026, exciting
Yeah.
forward. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a year we're talking about physical AI.
Yeah.
So how do you perceive the physical AI in 2026? Yeah.
Yes, I think we also did a report on physical AI last year. I don't know whether you noticed we had an industry research report on physical AI to talk about opportunity there. We didn't invest any humanoid robots because it's there's also, when we talk about robotics, we also need to consider the global competition that China and Shenzhen is doing great robotics innovation there with probably 10% of the 10% of the cost. But on the other side, in terms of physical AI, simulation system, the model, the data layer, simulation data layer, I think US have lots of great innovation. That's the part we've been focusing on as well. I think 2026 will be a great year for physical AI. We also start to see, I literally was talking to a leader who is the former CTO of the large supply chain company. And they were asking me about, physical AI innovation, how they deploy across their infrastructure in general, and also the data layer, how to do the data curation, everything. I think the challenge has been, we don't have enough high quality data for training the physical AI or training the word model compared with large language model. But how to really build up the simulation system for it, and also on top of that, have enough high quality data curation, data library, that will be the foundation to build on top of it of the physical application. And for any company only want to do component solution might be challenging. Again, hard to compete with a Chinese company in terms of margin and cost. But if you really focus on the model layer, the simulation layer, the data layer, I think Silicon Valley founders still have a huge advantages.